Hey everyone, in this guide I'm going to be covering level editing. First I'm going to go over some tips on how to make a new map, and then we'll talk about loading levels onto an existing map. So let's start by creating our own map mod. I'm going to name it map guide. Okay, so when you make a new map, you're just going to have this little island and this house as a start with all these player spawners. I think the first thing we should cover is how to work with terrain. So you can go up here in modes and then go to the landscape and foliage tabs. You can also use shift 2 or shift 3 and then shift 1 to get back to the editing mode. So here in the terrain editing mode, we can go over here to sculpt, and then we have all these brush tools here that we can use to add onto the map. So for example, let's say I want to extend the island over here. I can just use the flatten tool and drag some out. Now you'll notice that it's not adding any more area over here. We need to add more subsections onto this map. So go to the Manage tab, then select Add, and then you can add more area in. Just like that. The next thing we probably want to do is make this look like actual terrain. So we're going to be editing the MI landscape material here. We can do that by going back into the landscape mode and go over to Paint. And you need to add the layer of which paint you want to add. And it should be already pre-configured here for you. So let's say the first layer I want is gravel. Go over to the plus button right here and create a weight blended layer. And it's going to ask you where you want that to be placed. We're just going to put that here in our map folder. And now you can see we have a gravel beach for all of this. And if you want to add more paints, you got to add the layer too. So ground grass 02, let's add the layer. And then selecting that layer allows you to paint it on the map. Up here at the top, you have options for your brush size, so we can make it smaller, maybe give it a little bit less fall off. And I have the tool strength set to 1. And now you can just go ahead and paint your map to look how you want. And there you go. We have some nice grass on this island now. Next, let's go into foliage. Then we can add a foliage type by selecting from the list of foliage in the Modkit. So let's see, let's grab a tree. Now, with this tree added, we can check it here. And now we can paint it onto the map. So boom, now we got a couple little trees. Now if you want to move the trees after you place them, you can select them by using the select tool here. And then you can move them wherever you want. You can select all with this button and then deselect with this. So now we're going to need to decorate our map, and we can find all of the meshes in the game over here in geometry and meshes. And in these folders are most of the models in the entire game that you can use. So we can go over here to buildings. And, oh, I don't know, we can put a church down. Why not? Now there is a bit more to level editing that I haven't covered in this guide because I've already covered it in the basics Modkit guide, the first guide that I made. So I'll leave a timestamp here and skip to that area, then you can see how to build missions and do more complicated things. And if you want to know how to get this map loaded onto your server, I have a guide for that too that you can find here. Let's move on to loading a custom level onto an existing map. So I'm just going to save this here, and I'm going to load into Potney. Alright, so we've loaded into Potney here, and let's say I want to place a giant floating shipwreck here, just to test if this mod is working. Now, a brute force way to do this could be just copying the entire World 1 folder, putting it in your mod, making edits to that World 1, and essentially replacing the existing map with your own custom one. There are a couple problems with doing that. Your mod would be very large, but it also means any other mod that did the same thing will now conflict with yours, because you can only load one map at a time. So if one person has one custom map and another person has another, the one that loads is going to be according to the mod order. So this is why we want to load our own custom levels on top of the vanilla map. So let's make another new example mod here. I'm going to create just a new mod, and we're going to name it Load Level. Next, we want to go over to the levels here and create our new one. So we're going to create a new empty level, name it whatever you want to name it. Again, I'm just going to name it Load Level. And then to actually edit your level specifically and not the default one, you're going to hit Make Current. You can also go down here and just select which one you want to edit from this little drop-down menu, which is probably easier, but I always forget about it. Now remember, your custom level is still in World 1 right now. It's not in your mod. Our mod is still empty, so we're going to have to copy it over at some point. But for now, let's just add a, let's say, a shipwreck. So now we have a shipwreck placed in this safe zone, and if we turn toggle visibility on and off for our custom level, you can see that it is just in our level. Now that's all I'm going to do for this example mod, so now I'm going to copy it over to the mod folder. So I'm going to grab our custom level, copy it, and then paste it into the mod folder like that. And since I'm going to be testing this in the editor, I'm going to remove this level from the World 1 map in the content folder. So remove. Going back to our custom mod, we're going to open mod registry. Open the full blueprint editor. And in here, we're going to make a very simple blueprint program that's going to load our level whenever the map loads. So go ahead and right click, and we're going to type in event world and add it into our blueprint. Then dragging off from the execution line here, we're going to type in load level, and we want load level instance by reference. Now there's two things we need to do here. We need to drag this node here, and then for level, we need to select the level that we want to load. So load level. Now there's two here because I created a duplicate, so we want to select the one from our mod. So what we've created here is this red node will trigger this blue one whenever the world loads in. It's also telling which world is loaded in. And then this node here is going to load the level we want on top of this world. And we can also specify custom location and rotation for this level if we want. But for now, that's all we need to do. We can just hit compile and save. Now the last thing we should do is make sure that we did everything correctly by playing it in the editor. Now before playing in the editor, make sure to save everything in case you crash. And also make sure that you have play as client selected and make sure that you're loading in the mods here from this drop-down menu. So let's go ahead and play. And here we are. Our custom shipwreck is now in the safe zone. So that's all I have for you in this guide. Let me know which guides you want me to make next. I'm just making these based on whatever comments I'm seeing from the community and also from what I'm seeing in the Modkit chat in our Discord. I hope you found this video helpful. Thanks for watching.